Hello there, AP Euro students. I hope you're doing well. By now you've probably guessed what is going on and kind of how things are going to go this week. I would have started in class with this, quick introduction, and so here's a video instead, all right? We're going to be talking about the Scientific Revolution and the Enlightenment this week and next week, and you're going to do an activity about some people in the Enlightenment and Scientific Revolution eras of time, and so I figured you need a little bit of background. Now, hopefully you've done some chapter 16 reading and notes, and you should have those notes turned in by the end of this week, by the way, so get caught up on those. So if you have, you probably have an idea of what the Scientific Revolution is, right? If not, you might need to go look some stuff up, but let me try and just introduce it to you. So let's look at these words, right? The Scientific Revolution and the Enlightenment. Science was not a thing, and then it became a thing because some people figured out this thing. What is that? Well, they figured out not, oh, look, we can learn some things. Oh, look, we can write things down. Oh, look, we can experiment. No, they figured out the process and the established process that we now call the scientific method, okay? And this is established at this point in time. And then the idea of revolution is the idea that things change. Everything changes. That something new has come along and we're doing things differently. It's a turnaround, a complete go in 180 degrees or 360 degrees and turn everything around. Then the Enlightenment era follows the Scientific Revolution. Imagine, this is weird, but imagine you woke up, you're kidnapped or something, and you wake up in a completely black room, right? And there's no lights, there's nothing. You don't know what's going on or where you are. But you do have a flashlight in your pocket. So you pull the flashlight out and you turn it on, and whatever you see in that beam of light in that dark room is knowledge. You point it at the wall, you point it at the window, the door, the furniture, the carpet. Whatever you see is new knowledge. And that's the idea that should be in your head for what is this enlightenment. We're putting the light of knowledge onto things, okay? Now that stuff is the Scientific Revolution, okay? And then we're taking that, and in the Enlightenment era, we're not just doing science with it anymore. What they do during the Enlightenment era is they try and figure out ways to apply scientific reasoning and logic to life, to government, to new societies, okay? So let's look at a timeline and get this picture in our head about when all this is going on. 1500 to 1900. That's a big amount of time. That's a lot of this whole entire class that we're studying this whole year. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's go back to 1543 with this guy named Copernicus. And what he does is he publishes a book. He does it right after he dies because he's so afraid to publish it, that what's going to happen to him when he publishes it. He publishes this book that basically says, hey, guess what? I think that we live in a heliocentric universe. Again, look at the words, heliocentric. If you know what the word helio means, raise your hand. Just kidding. Helio means sun. It's Greek for sun, right? So sun-centric universe. Now, why is that important? It's because they used to believe that the Earth was at the center of the universe. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons for that, and there's some reasons for that. But really, we can't blame them too much. I mean, think about it. If you woke up every day without any education and you looked at the sun coming up and you saw it going down and you saw the moon and the stars and the planets come out every night and you saw the sun come up the next day, if you do a little bit of observation, everything looks like it's spinning around you, okay? Like you're the pole and everything else is the tetherball, right? And so you can't really blame them too much for thinking that the Earth is at the center and everything is going around the Earth. Okay, it's also something that the church bought into. There's some reasons for that we'll talk about. Well, he's wrong. Copernicus is wrong. It's not a heliocentric universe. It's a heliocentric solar system. But he is on the right track. He is starting to use actual logic and thinking in mathematics to figure things out, and he's on the right track. This sets off the Scientific Revolution. And the Scientific Revolution ends in 1687, so 150 years later or so, with Newton, that is Sir Isaac Newton, and he publishes his own book called Principia, and there's other things that he publishes too, but he publishes Principia, as in principles, it's Latin, okay, and in this book are actually some familiar things, stuff like for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, okay, and the idea that gravity is something that exists. Okay, there's a way to explain why things fall to the earth. Okay, so he's the first one that really kind of starts figuring that stuff out. He invents this thing called calculus. He invents calculus. Okay, so he's a smart guy. Now, those are the bookends to the Scientific Revolution, and in the middle we have a whole bunch of other people. And these people do inventions, do math, do calculations, do new ways of thinking about science, and they figure it out. Okay, now, following the Scientific Revolution, we have this period of time that's called the Enlightenment. Now, to kick off the Enlightenment, what we have is John Locke in 1689. Look how close he is to Newton, right? John Locke in 1689, he publishes his book, and in his book he talks about how to form new governments. And one of the ways that he and others talk about forming new governments is they start to use scientific reasoning to do that. They say, listen, it shouldn't just be about a king or who has the most power and the guns and everything. It should be about, let's think about it first and figure out the best way to form a new government. And so just like the Scientific Revolution, you have these people following along, okay, and they come up with all sorts of ideas about the way life should be. In the middle of this, excuse me, in the middle of this, we have this thing called Thomas Jefferson, 1776, and the American Declaration of Independence. These people are Enlightenment thinkers. The Americans that write the Declaration of Independence, the thesis statement for America, written in the Enlightenment age from Enlightenment thinking. And to finish off the Enlightenment, we have this thing called the French Revolution. Excuse me again. The French Revolution is also about Enlightenment thinking. It's about taking things and going, this is the way things are, but this is the way things ought to be based on science. And let's make that happen now. And they start chopping a bunch of people's heads off and try and make it happen right then and there. It doesn't work too well for them. We'll see that later. Now, this red area called the Industrial Revolution, the reason I put this in here is just as a preview of what's to come. Okay, so it's just coming. Okay, so the Scientific Revolution completely invents and changes the way we know about about our natural world and how to study the natural world. The Enlightenment invents ways of how to think about and how to develop and how to invent new ways of doing society and government. And then the Industrial Revolution, the Industrial Revolution takes those two things and kind of blends them together and says, here's how to make things, like machines, and how to use machines, and how to create an entire new industry, an entire new economy around scientific thinking. Okay? That's coming in the future. Now, there's 5 words I want you to know for themes for the Industrial Revolution. Here are the 5 words. Reason, that is logic, that is a thinking process, that is scientific thinking. Reason, okay? That's the word they would have used. Science itself, as in science becoming an actual thing. Okay, it's not just some guy that's curious about, plants are growing over here, or why do the birds and the bees, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so science is putting it all together in a system. Okay, that is developed. Progress. All of these people, whether they were scientists or Enlightenment thinkers or people building factories in the Industrial Revolution or people writing the Declaration of Independence, all of them were thinking about this word of progress, as in we need to get from here to there in society and make things better. Liberty. Liberty is definitely one of the themes that that we start to see in this era of time. And we see that with the French Revolution and the American Revolution, where you take these ideas of enlightenment especially, and you say people should have freedom under the law, this liberty that we should write into our government systems. And then finally, toleration, specifically religious toleration. Because remember, in the 1500s and even up into the middle of 1600s, we have like 150 years of religious strife throughout Europe, where they're arguing and fighting over the different types of religion under the Christian banner of, Catholicism, but it's not Catholicism anymore and all that stuff. And the idea of toleration comes out of the idea that, wait a second, if we can, and we can prove that we can, if we can learn things that are true about the world around us, if we don't have to get our truth just from the church, then that means we should start to accept what other people think about the world around them. And we should tolerate other people in their thinking. These 5 things are the themes of the Enlightenment and the Scientific Revolution, and these people are some of the people you are going to be investigating in the next few days. I will see you later. Have a good one.